Howdy gamer, let's talk about the runes for Soraka. Coming into Season 10, Soraka is actually pretty sleeper, meaning that like she's kind of secretly strong. Into a lot of the strong supports like Senna, all the mage supports, she kind of negates their laning phase and then overlaps their scaling by a ton. If you can get into the mid game for free with Soraka, she's one of the best supports in the game. So if you ever like are able to pick Soraka into a non like melee matchup where they don't just simply like have the ability to engage on you in the laning phase, it makes things pretty safe, and then you're almost guaranteed to just come into the mid game with 0 deaths and a pretty good income, and then one item spike into two, it's kind of just game over for Soraka because Athene's plus literally anything, Athene's plus Shurelia's, Redemption, Ardent, etc. Soraka's just going to be outweighing like other supports by a huge margin. So the two major keystones for Soraka is Aery and Guardian. In Season 9, the Guardian keystone was just so much stronger as the Aftershock supports were so much more prevalent. But coming into Season 9, Aery is going to be outweighing it as Guardian's still good, but Aery is just more useful into basically every matchup. And then the extra shielding, and then basically it gives you damage early, right? Let's start with Aery. Aery gives you more damage whenever you damage the enemy champions in any way. So with your auto attacks and then with your Q and your E. So it can give you more poke in lane. And that's nice because anytime you're damaging someone with Soraka, it's kind of risky business in the laning phase. And then later in the game, it's mostly just used for the shield, as whenever you heal your allies, you're also going to be giving them a shield. And then if you have Athenes or any other heal, then you're constantly going to be proccing, or if you hit a Q before landing your W, then you're constantly going to be proccing Aery, so long that you don't damage an enemy with it. So if you're using this if you're playing Soraka correctly and you're in the backline, you're going to be shielding so much along with your heals. And with Soraka, her heal gets on such a low cooldown that whenever an enemy dives on top of your carry, it's mostly just like you spamming the heal as fast as it comes up. And then with this shield, you just add another layer of effective HP for a carry that you're peeling for. So it makes it super, super hard for your carries to die, even if they're really trying, man. Great keystone. And it's the most synergistic with any enchanter support, as that's pretty much what it's made for. Deal damage early and then shield later. Second rune's going to be Mana Flow Ban. Whenever you damage an enemy champion with an ability, then you get extra mana stacking up to 250. So this is basically a sapphire crystal for free. Soraka's mana cost are pretty reasonable, but if you end up spamming your W throughout like a extended fight or just a close fight, then you're gonna want enough mana to actually be able to cast it. That, and if you overcast her Q and E, then you're also gonna run out of mana. So it helps offset that if you're a bad player, but then if you're a good player and then you manage your mana well anyways, then it's also going to give you enough mana to actually be able to cast enough Qs and Ws in like a fight that actually goes the distance. So that's good. Null Orb's okay if you're playing into, let's say, Karthus jungle, if you're playing into the mage bot lane such as Syndra Vigar, where they would want to be focusing the Soraka in the bot lane anyways, sure, go ahead and run Nullifying Orb. Nimbus Cloak isn't useful like at all. Even if you're running something like Barrier, being able to run away faster isn't really that useful, because with Soraka you only have to be backline anyways, so you don't have to be in danger anyway, so having more movement speed away isn't so useful. But if you want to run it with something like Barrier, go ahead, but Mana Flow Ban's just so much better. And then in the third row, all of these are kind of okay options. You can make an argument for all of them. With Transcendence, you get 10 CDR. Celerity, you get more movement speed. And then Absolute Focus, you get more ability power. With Transcendence, come mid-game, Soraka's main ability is her W, and it's already going to be on a really low cooldown come mid-game if you're building like Lucidity Boots and then Thenes. So other supports benefit from Transcendence more than Soraka. With Celerity, you get bonus movement speed, and then basically the more bonus movement speed you get, the more movement speed you have. And the ways you get movement speed with Soraka is with your Q. But the extra movement speed that you're going to get from this isn't going to like help you escape anything that you otherwise wouldn't. So with Absolute Focus, whenever you're above 70% health, you gain more AP. With Soraka, it's pretty easy to be above 70% health. You can lose the value whenever you go below that, whenever you're healing your ally, but you also have your ult to displace that as well. So going with Absolute Focus, it's going to be in combination with Gathering Storm as well in the 4th rune. Scorch is okay, but Soraka doesn't really need to win lanes. You kind of do it naturally anyways through just out healing the enemy. So long that you're spinning your Q and your W well and not just randomly spamming the E, then you're going to be winning your lane. You could still run Scorch into matchups that are naturally winning for Soraka, but with Gathering Storm, it makes it where you're already scaling. You're already like the best scaling support in the game, basically. Gathering Storm makes that even more brutal. For most games, you're only going to get the 24 AP at 20 minutes, but that's still really good. And then come 30 minutes, you get 48 AP. And the more AP Soraka has, like the grosser the champion looks come late game. And then for secondary runes, we're going to go with Revitalize and Conditioning. Conditioning at 10 minutes is going to give you 9 armor and 9 magic resist, and then give you a percentage of armor and magic resist, but it's mostly just for the 9 con mid game. Against any team comp, this is going to help you a lot because once you've survived the laning phase and then come mid game, any champion that can deal damage to you, whether there be long range or champions that dive onto Soraka, you're going to be negating the damage that they deal. And the longer that Soraka stays alive, like the better her team's going to be doing. Font of Life is fine, and Font of Life has a lot of good utility. But with Conditioning, it gives you a bit more power for yourself, and then you're still going to have enough heals for your carry anyways. It also synergizes with Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm in terms of like playing to scale. Revitalize has pretty obvious use. Soraka is like one of the best champions of getting value out of Revitalize because your heals and shields you cast or receive are 5% stronger, so it's basically a free Forbidden Idol, and then 10% stronger on targets below 40% health. So it has huge synergy with Soraka's heal, as you're going to be healing targets that are low anyways. And then yeah, it's just pretty basic. Your heals are stronger, your Aery shield is stronger, your ult is stronger, etc. If you're playing with a on-hit champion such as Jinx, Varus, Kog'Maw, etc., consider running Font of Life, as those champions benefit a lot more from it. But if you're playing with champions like Draven, Kai'Sa, Twitch, like these burst-heavy champions, conditioning is just better. Like with Font of Life, it's useful. I'm not going to argue that, but with conditioning, like being able to survive more in the mid game is so strong. And then yeah, with adaptive runes, we're going to go with AP, armor, and then magic resist. The little bit of AP helps with the Q damage early, basically, and then obviously with the heals, and then giving you the flat AP for free, and then synergizing with the Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. And then with the double resistances in the bot lane, you're pretty likely to be playing against champions that deal magic damage, and you're guaranteed to be playing against champions that deal physical damage. The magic damage can either come from the enemy support, regardless of the champion, whether it be an engage support or a mage support or an enchanter support. Basically, all of them deal magic damage. So having the extra resistances early from level 1 is going to be helping you until the end of the game. Because buying armor and magic resist early on in the game is very expensive for Soraka, and it's not something that you can really do. But starting off with the resistances for free helps you from level 1 to the end of the game, like I said. And so long that you're surviving early as Soraka, you're just winning. That's how it goes. Having this little bit of AP isn't that important early game. It's really about Soraka's AP ratios later in the game, when you can buy the AP versus just starting out with it. So this is the default runes I recommend for Soraka going into Season 10. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit on the secondary runes, and then I'm going to talk a bit about the Guardian page. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll answer literally all of them. Okie doke. So for the secondary runes, with this main page, you could run like free boots biscuits. I don't think this outweighs this and this, because having the boots for free isn't going to outweigh having this revitalize for free. Revitalize is just way too strong for Soraka. And then the biscuits are just like, you don't need this mana. Even if you ran like Cosmic Insight this, You also, like, these two things are luxury, and you have to beat Revitalize. Like, even Perfect Timing plus Cosmic Insight combined does not beat Revitalize. Domination's kind of interesting, as with Ghost Portal you can get 30 AP for free, and then you can also have the laning tool with Taste of Blood. Into matchups in which you would be the one to take the damage in the lane versus your AD, this could be okay, but I can't even think of a matchup that you would do that off the top of my head. Like, I'm trying to think of like mage matchups, but even then, nothing's really coming to me. But these are higher value than the inspiration tree for sure. And then the precision tree isn't so useful. Like, your best option would be presence of mind and then tenacity. Presence of mind giving you more mana per assist. Even triumphant could be okay, but with legend tenacity you have to stack it up, which you can do now with relic shield a bit faster. But then to make use of the tenacity, you have to be eating CC abilities, and that's not really what Soraka is designed for anyway, so it's pretty anti-synergistic in that sense. Okie dokie, moving on to the resolve tree. The next major keystone for Soraka that's actually useful is Guardian. With Guardian, it makes it so that whenever you're playing into melee matchups, basically, it makes it so that their engage onto you or your carry is lessened to a way higher degree. Because even if they land a hook, or if they flash, knock up, flash, stun your carry, so long that you land a W on them, even if you cast your Q over Soraka for some reason it procs Guardian, or if you use your ult, or like a summoner spell heal, any way that you could heal them, it will proc Guardian, or if you're near them, it will proc Guardian. And what Guardian does is, Aery blocks a good amount of damage, but with Guardian you have like a one-time big-ass shield, which can be more impactful against engages, and that's why you want to run it into melee matchups. The cooldown on it is pretty significant. It's about a minute throughout most of the game, and then the shield power is based off your AP and then your bonus health, which is about what Soraka builds anyways, which is nice. And then whenever it's procced, it's going to give you and your ally a pretty big shield, and then also 20% movement speed. So it's basically just to negate engage supports. So if you're playing into those champions, feel free to run this rune, as you are going to be missing out on a bit of like the good things from the prior rune page, where Aery's shield is pretty significant, and then absolute focus and gathering storm. The AP from that is pretty significant, but if you don't get to that point early game, then especially in solo queue, then what's the point of having the scaling if the early game's lost? Because your AD carry dies because you don't have the tools to save them, you know? Second rune's going to be Font of Life. Demolish and Shield Bash aren't that valuable. If you're running something like this, you're already playing defensive anyway, so being able to get extra turret plating from Demolish is kind of just luxury anyways. With Font of Life, it has higher synergy with this page, as you're playing to negate and engage supports engage. So you proc Guardian, and then you land your Q, and then whenever you land your Q, I don't know if it actually procs off E. Whenever you land your Q, though, you're going to mark the enemy, and then whenever your AD carry or other allies auto-attack that champion that's marked, then it's going to heal them for a bit. And then with this, you can also use it to proc Ardent Censer and then Athenes, which is pretty good. So it definitely has more synergy with this page than with the prior. And then you could still go conditioning with this page, as you would still be playing to scale. With Second Wind or Bone Plating, like, Bone Plating helps if you're getting hit, right? But it doesn't help if you're not getting hit, and it's not Soraka's job to get hit. And then for the last rune, it would be Revitalize. Same thing. Like, you really have to beat Revitalize in terms of value if you're trying to outweigh it. Overgrowth gives you more health, and then Unflinching gives you more slow resistance and tenacity. And again, it's just not Soraka's job to eat the abilities. And then for the secondary runes, I still think you would want to go into the sorcery tree, where you could run Mana Flow Ban, and then you could either choose between Absolute Focus or Gathering Storm. I think I'd go with Gathering Storm, as it's 24 guaranteed AP at all stages versus versus like the fluctuating value of absolute focus, and where you don't need the values early anyways, you're not really trading off that much. If you needed to, like let's say if you're playing into, I don't know, man, Nautilus or something where they have like a point and click ult that's just unavoidable, maybe you would run perfect timing biscuits, so you could still be getting the mana from this. Um, and then perfect timing gives you the one-time stopwatch in which Nautilus ults you and then you use stopwatch. Like ideally Nautilus flash ults you and then you use the stopwatch and then it's kind of negated altogether. And then with biscuit delivery, it'd basically be like a substitute for mana flow ban, where every 2 minutes you get a biscuit until 6 minutes, and then biscuits restore 10% of your missing health and mana, and then increase your mana cap by 50. So it's not that great for Soraka, as again, like it would help in an all-in if you get engaged on, and it would also help if you're completely out of mana in the laning phase, and then it increases your maximum mana, which is the most important part for it, basically, and with this rune page. And then if you sell them, it also increases your maximum mana. So it's kind of like a salvage page. So if you have to run it, sure, run that. But otherwise, I would definitely recommend this. And then it would be the same secondary, or the same adaptive runes as well. So that's the runes for Soraka. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments. I'll answer literally all of them. And coming into Season 10, I'll be streaming again on twitch.tv/SawyerNelson. Might be playing Soraka, but I'll probably be playing Senna. She's my girlfriend. If you could just not talk to her, that'd be great, man.